Can you see?
Well, for some reason, the intro just stopped right in midstream. How, I hope that's not a vision of what's to come on this day. It's crazy. How are you, Terry?
I'm well. I'm very well. How are you?
It's not storming. There's no tornadoes, and it's sunny outside. And even though there was traffic and I got stuck in it, it's still great to be here, and it's a pretty day.
It is a gorgeous day. It is.
Well,
They're blooming.
it is. It's when the flowers start blooming and we start getting the spring starts coming to life after the frozen winter. It really is. It brings all the good feels, all the good feels. It's one of my favorite times of year. Of course, I like the fall too, when everything's starting to die. So I don't know what that says about me, but I just think there's beauty in all of the different seasons.
There is. There absolutely is. And springtime is one of my favorites. I like summer too. Actually, I like fall. I like them all. I mean, I don't really know that I have a favorite, but I used to have a favorite, but now I think
Yeah.
I'm partial to all of them.
Yeah. I like, it's always a different time. It's always a different thing. And you're a planter. You like to plant things. Or have you gone to buy all your plants and all your stuff to get things in the ground?
They're in the ground already.
Well,
And they're all
my time,
perennial.
this is the time of the year where I'm getting everybody all my horses are shedding off their winter coats. And I always say there's always enough fur there for every bird to make a nest. I said, all my birds around where I am have fur lined nest because all the horsehair that's everywhere. It's just crazy. We've got a
Absolutely.
lot of people who have joined us. You guys, we've had a little break because of me. I've had some things going with my job, and so I apologize. And I'm glad to be back. I missed you, Terry.
I missed you too.
It's been it's been a lot of stuff going on, but it's all good. It's all good. Michelle is with us watching on YouTube, and Elizabeth is with us. And she says, I love the good feels Mother Nature's giving us today. Donna Collins Fee is with us as well. So glad to have you guys with us. Leave a remark. Tell us where you're watching from and what y'all are up to today. I thought about asking Terry, and this actually came up in a conversation this past week about defeating bad memories. I want to talk about bad memories, and I talked to someone today, and she says, "I know, but I know, but I know, but I'm afraid of something." She's been looking forward to something her whole life, and she's about to embark on it, and fear is rearing its ugly head. She said, I should have had fear before I started this thing, but now it's getting closer to the event and I'm getting ready and I'm preparing for it. But she said, I'm getting fear. And she says, I know not to be afraid, but I still am. So bad memories, defeating them, and defeating fear when it comes up. Can we start? Is that a good jumping off place? What do you tell people?
Well, first, I don't think we defeat fear. I think we embrace it and we learn from what it's telling us. Like, is it telling us something bad is going to happen? Because that's just our history. That's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily what you're creating for your future. Also, I have people examine, is it fear or is it when people will come, they'll say, oh, I'm just so anxious. I'm so anxious. I'm starting a new job. I'm so anxious. And I'm like, how much of that anxiety is excitement? Like, decide how much of it is excitement, because they show up kind of the same. And excitement without proper breath is fear. So, finding out how much of that is fear, how much of it is excitement, and also what do you have to fear in it? Like, you've never done it before. So why not embrace it rather than be afraid of it? And also, I never think we get very far bullying ourselves into submission with fear, that we're no different than the fear at that point.
Mm-hmm. You know, I looked at it. I said, "What part made you want to do this?" And there was this litany and this long list of wonderful reasons why she embarked on it. And she says, "I know better. I know I have nothing to worry about. Whatever." I said, "Are you?" I said, it's a competition. So are you afraid of losing? And she said, no, I really get, because, you win, you lose, whatever, is it fear of embarrassment? I said, sometimes we're afraid of being embarrassed. We try something and we're not great at it. It's like, oh, I remember when I was part of the celebrity softball game that they used to have here during fanfare, and I would have to go up and hit a ball. And I am not very athletic. And I know that's just shocker, but I'm just not. I mean, that's not my gift. I mean, my hand-eye coordination is just not very good. So I knew I was probably not going to be great there. And I just got so nervous. And then it's just like, if I'm horrible, I'll make people laugh. I mean, and that's okay. And when you're okay with the worst that can happen, it kind of helped the fear and the nerves and all go away. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah. So I don't know, like I said, I think it's just, it's not so much about just, it's about figuring out, looking at it and saying, if someone says, I'm afraid of this, I'm fearful of this, well, what are you afraid of? And if it's
yeah.
be seen, or I'm this, or maybe I'm going to fail, maybe you do fail, but you
Hmm.
have a choice. You can fail and you can be afraid, or you can just fail.
You know what? And if you just decide not to do it altogether, that's a failure in itself, and that's its own deal. Elizabeth says, yes, I was just talking excitement versus anxiety with a friend the other day. She realized that what she thought was anxiety may not really be.
Mm-hmm. And also, I'm not so sure that I think it's a bad idea if someone thinks, if they decide they don't want to do something, examine why you don't want to do it. And if you decide that it's just not for you, I don't think you failed at that. I think it's just, you just decided it's not for you. Now, if you beat yourself up, oh, I should have done it, I don't know why I didn't do it, blah, 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 blah. And you gotta look at that. But if you're just like, you know what? I've thought about it. I've sat and contemplated on it, and I don't think this is for me. I don't want to do this. That's okay.
Hmm.
That's better than forcing yourself to do something that you don't really want to do.
Hmm. I was talking with someone the other day who has, grandkids, and this kid started playing a team sport because all of his friends were playing the team sport. He hates every part of it. He can't stand it. What are
Well,
your thoughts on when a parent or grandparent when they go, no, we're going to start what we finish?
I think that there is a level of commitment. I think that what you do is you talk with your child, you explain to them practices are going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be hot outside. You're going to have to run. Maybe you have to get up early in the morning. You're not going to be sitting around picking daisies with your friends. This is a commitment. It can be fun, but there's also you're going to be tired sometimes. There's going to be some things, do you realize, if you want to play soccer, do you realize how much running is involved in that? Why don't you get out there and run around the yard for about 20 minutes solid and let me know if you're good with that? And if you are, you want to continue, great. I don't think, and I'm not a fan of when parents let kids start something or encourage them to start something, and the minute that the kid goes, I don't want to do this, they go, okay, well, we're not going to do it anymore. Because I think that is starts a behavior of just quitting when it's hard. Now, I'm not saying if you have a coach that's being disrespectful, if you have a coach that's being blatantly biased, if you have the same thing with adults working a job. You can work a job, and if you go to a job and you're just like, oh my God, I have to get up at 7 in the morning. I don't want to do this. Well, I mean, that's kind of the adult thing. But if you're going to work and you're working and you're not getting a promotion and you have advocated for yourself, or there's biases there or unfair, absolutely you can use your advocate for yourself and leave. But no, I'm not a fan, and there are people that will argue that, and that's okay, they can argue it. I just don't think that it's healthy to have small children just start things and quit because they just
Mm-hmm.
quit. I think we have to explain to them. I explained to my daughter when she was little, she's 32 now, when she was little and she wanted to play for the YMCA. I explained to her, I said, I know your friends are on the team, but you realize you're not going to be sitting there talking to them the whole time. You're going to be
Mm-hmm.
sport, and this is what this entails. And so, we made the investment in the shin guards and the ball, and then we practiced. And she decided, yeah, she really did want to do it. And she did it for about 3 seasons. And then I was like, so do you want to play next year? And she was like, nah. And I was like, okay. That's different from a parent that will also invest their time and energy in the sport. And we've all seen these parents, they're in the stands and they're screaming, come on, what's wrong with you? And that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's anxiety reducing or producing for children. And it also imprints children that they need to be perfect, which then just ripples into a whole new set of problems all through high school, college, marriage, you name it.
Mm-hmm. Mike is with us. Mike Doss, how are you, Mike? Mike says, my grown daughter does this to our grandchild. It's very frustrating. Um, so I guess, Mike, you're meaning she allows them to quit at the first drop of the hat. I don't know. Robert Sprite is with us. Says hi, Devon and Terry, and asks if we're in California. No, we are not, Robert. And Michelle is in Mount Juliet today. She's giving plasma. So good on you for that. Good on you, Michelle. Elizabeth is, what is this? I think there's a time and a place for making a kid do it. I don't think they should be able to just drop it on a whim because they're not happy. They do need to learn about commitment, but they do need to learn to make decisions in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did
Absolutely.
I did a podcast earlier today called the Autism Digest, and we were talking about that. And I did say, there are kids on the spectrum that have taught me more about boundaries than people who are not on the spectrum, because a kid who knows their boundaries and says, no, I will not do this or whatever, it's really taught me how many times I've rolled with it when I should have just said no.
Absolutely.
And I really have learned that about myself. And I said, these kids, I was really blessed to be part of a fundraiser for kids with autism, the acoustic night for autism this past month. And man, I tell you what, I learned so much from these kids. They were so very interesting. And I thought, if I knew enough about setting a boundary, I would have fewer resentments in my little resentment bank. I mean, I'm getting rid of those anyway. I'm going to kind of, because, carrying around your resentments in a resentment bank doesn't pay off any bills.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
at the other side of it, it's at the get go, before I start something, if I really examined, and maybe the whole thing when you're contemplating a decision about what to do and what not to do, maybe the research with your kid before they do something is as important as making the decision.
Yeah. Well, we also have to understand that when children are little, they don't really understand the word commitment. It's not like a big
Yep.
person's understanding of commitment. So we have to share with them what it is. And it doesn't have to be, you're going to have to run and you're going to get tired and you're going to sweat and there's going to be bees outside. Some parents that don't want to deal with their kids playing sports, that's the approach they take. Other parents are like, oh my God, you're going to have so much fun. It's going to be so great. Yada, yada, yada. We have to make sure as individuals, whether you're a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, guardian, you have to make sure that you're not transferring your, it's important to me that they play so that I can show up and take the snacks every week or whatever. Like you have to really check your level of why you're trying to influence one way or the other. But I think if a child comes to you and says, yeah, I want to do this, then let them learn. If a child wants to take piano lessons and you make a commitment to, they say, I want to take piano lessons. And it's like, okay, great. Well, let's find someone and see if we can take a couple of piano lessons. And if you like that, then we'll sign up for an extended period of time. But once we sign up for this time, we're in it until that time is up. And
Oh,
then,
that's good. Yeah.
and then that way they get to make that decision. And then they understand that when they make that decision, as Elizabeth was saying, then they are committed to that.
Mm-hmm.
I see people all the time that will come to me and they'll say, I'm in a relationship and it's horrible and I don't want to be in it, but I'm committed to it because I made the commitment. And I'm like, okay, then our work here is done. Like,
What am I going to do with that?
I'm
just, you made your bed, now you're going to lay in it. That's, because I was raised with that phrase tossed about a lot in my home. And I'm going, now, wait a minute. Kids, if they ever look at their parents quit stuff all the time. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. They start with, what it might be something as simple as I'm going to teach a Sunday school class. And then they get into it and go, this is every Sunday. And no matter what you do, Sunday's going to come around and you have to have that lesson prepared. Yeah,
absolutely. And sometimes things just naturally come to an end, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You don't have to drag something out that's naturally come to an end. But also, we do have to, being advocates for our own well-being, we're teaching children one way or the other that they're either going to, do their research, do something and enjoy it. When they don't want to do it again at the end of a season, then don't sign up for it again.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter played sports, played softball all through, started at the age of 5 on the little league, little teams. And she played all the way through high school and even talked with a college about playing there, and then made the decision. She was like, I don't want to do it. And quite honestly, Mama was relieved because I was like, whew, okay. But also she decided she wanted to just enjoy college and not have to have a job being a sport in college. So she made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to persuade her one way or the other. That needed to be her decision.
Yeah. Johnny Vanoker joins us. Hi, Johnny. Hi, JV. I hope you're doing well. I want to touch briefly on this about defeating bad memories, because that did come up, and that was a question. Hey, would you guys talk about that? When we have a bad memory associated with something, I took a course one time and they used an example. They said, so-and-so is, they hate apples. Every time they see apple pie or whatever, they just hate apples, the smell of it, everything. And then they went back and they said, well, what was your earliest memory? When did you start liking apples? Oh, I never liked them. And then they kept peeling back and going back to that very bad memory. Had a wreck on a bicycle as a kid and fell and hit his head on an apple tree. And he woke up and there were apples laying all around him. And that was determined as the thing that set up on this bad memory. That turned out it wasn't the apples, the apple pie, the whatever. It was this first initial memory that had stuck with him. And I don't know about you, but I've had some memories in my past that have kept me from doing something, even though that memory is long past. Long past. Are there any things that you can do to get rid of something that is an old memory, gone, but it keeps you from attempting something now?
This is when we need Bill Sinkay on with us.
You know what it is. We should have Bill on with us because hypnotherapy.
Well, there's all kinds of, you can do hypnotherapy. People can do EMDR. People can do faster EFT tapping. There's all kinds of ways that people can dive back in if they need to dive back in to figure out the exact moment and latitude and longitude that the experience happened in order to know why they don't like blah blah blah. Then that would be one of those routes to take. But if you're trying to navigate through releasing memories, I'm not even a fan of calling them good memories or bad memories. It's just memories. It's just a memory that you have. like, I mean, I would need to know kind of an example. I mean, if you're talking about, I mean, because that's a range, right? I mean, there's people who
Mhm.
are in DV situations, domestic violence situations. There's people who don't want to eat grape jelly, you know. I mean, there, and each, the spectrum for that is, they're all different depending on what a person is
Mhm.
trying to navigate. Some of them are very triggering, others are just like, no, I don't like avocados. You know, whatever. So, I mean, do you have an example of a?
Yes, I do. I do. This was one that was just brought up to me um, in childhood. Well, probably let's say high school age. The father, who had been not the disciplinarian very much, um, he just happened to be home, and it was a time when it was a an issue that kind of came up, and Daddy said, "Not another word, not another word." And she said to him something, another word. She said another word, and he took his hand and he walloped her. And the only time, the one and only time the father ever did this, ever. And I'm going, I, and in my heart, I thought I couldn't get over that. Even if it was one time, it'd be really hard for me because that's a physically abusive thing. And it had affected this person for years in all the relationships, everything. So it makes me wonder, how do you get rid of something like that? It's one of those moments in time that's kind of, it burns into your brain. It affects you in relationships. Um, and it kind of stays with you.
Well, I think if the parent is alive, then you can, if the parent is alive, you can have a conversation with them. If you're in a place where some parents, I mean, some relationships, it's not safe to have relationships or conversations with parents because they are toxic and, you know, will gaslight the shit out of you. So you just don't, you steer clear of that and you process it on your own. If your parent's alive, then you go to them and you say, you know, what gives? I don't know if you remember this or not, but yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
The other point is just truthfully understanding that we as individuals, especially adults, we all have bad days. We have all said things we wish we had never said. We have all done things we wish we had never done. And depending on a person's ability to regulate, um, sometimes they lose their temper. Does it make it okay? No. But we as adults have to choose whether or not we're going to hold on to that or if we're going to let it go.
Yeah. In this case, the parent didn't wait to be confronted. The parent came back in a couple of hours and said, "I'm so sorry. That'll never happen again."
Yeah.
So that was considered closure and it was over. And I said, "But how do you deal with that memory of that happening?" And she says, "Well, I always knew that that was within him after that." Um, but she said, "But I decided not to hold that against him."
Yeah. I mean, we're
And
humans. We
so,
make mistakes, you
mhm.
know. Is physical violence ever the right answer? I mean, some people will say yes. I
Mhm.
don't think that we should. I think there's a difference in, back in the day when kids would spank their kids or when parents would spank their kids versus, beating their kids.
Yeah.
And I think anyone can lose their temper. I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying we choose to hang on to things or to decide whether or not that memory is causing us more angst or more joy. And if it's causing
Mhm.
angst, then we're responsible for doing the work around releasing it.
Mhm.
If a parent comes back and says, "I am so sorry, that was out of character. I should have never done that," then yeah, sure, they've got the ability to hit you again. I mean, a dog has the ability to bite again. We have the ability to scream and yell at people again. We all have the ability. None of us are
Yeah.
so angelic that we are perfect.
Right.
So, we all have that ability. So it's just about understanding and seeing the humanness in someone. If it truly is an offense against you where they are like, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry," and understanding whether or not you're in a position where you can or even want to, you know, reconcile that thought and move on. And everybody's
Mhm.
situation and circumstance is different.
It
So
really is. It
it's
really
not,
is.
it's not a cookie cutter answer for any one person.
Hmm. Sandy mentions the last time that happened to me. My oldest brother told my parent he would have to go through him. My dad never hit me again. And Sandy, you had a hero that stepped in, and that's important. So that memory has this other side to it as well. Corinne joins us and says, "Could y'all please pray for my daughter-in-law? She's been in the hospital the last 2 days." And so, yes, Corinne, thank you for
Absolutely.
reaching out.
Absolutely.
Um,
And to Sandy's point, Devon, that's what I was saying. There are some situations and dynamics in families where and I'm not saying this is Sandy's experience, but just based on what she had said, if this was a repetitive thing in anyone's family, that's more of a consistent abuse sort of thing. And again, I'm not
mhm,
saying this is Sandy's experience. I'm just to pivot off of that because she had said her brother intervened and said, if you do it again, you have to go through me. So there are some family dynamics where parents are abusive.
mhm,
Those situations are much more textured and challenging to expect someone to come back later in life and go, well, that was a one time. They apologized for it, and you know, I don't want to hold on to that anymore. Versus a child learning to flinch every time their parent is
mm,
around. That becomes a much more learned resistance to that interaction
yeah.
with that parent, and that creates a different child parent dynamic.
Ooh, it sure does. Elizabeth says, I was able to cleanse a lot of those bad memories and experiences by working my program. As an adult, I have a part in all the goings on in my life. When I discover my part, it has helped me let go of those awful and abusive memories. That's good.
And
Uh,
having a part, I'll add this on, and Elizabeth, correct me if you feel differently on this, but having a part in it, that comes from when we are an adult. We as children don't have a part in it. Like we don't have a part in the things that happen when we're small. But
mhm,
as an adult, if we choose to sit around and go, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. This happened to me, this happened to me, this happened. You have one life. Are you going to live life letting someone who was emotionally defective when you were younger control your adult life? And once you recognize that you can, whether it's your own personal work, whether you're seeking out help with a professional, whether you're reading a self-help book, whether you go to church, whether you work a program, whatever it is, when you decide I can do that and you step into that, you are absolutely from that point on responsible for whether or not you keep circling back to that or
mhm.
whether or not you move through it.
She says, absolutely, children have no part in it. As an adult, I chose to play the victim and loved the attention I got from it.
Ooh, don't we all though? I mean, let's be real, don't we? I mean, hey,
True.
let's be real. I can say it. I mean, there's been times in my life I love the shit out of playing the victim because I
Mhm.
got the attention. But when you recognize that you're really not authentic to yourself, then you stop doing that. And when the older we get, when we recognize that we're just still so mad about something, then you're not you're not working through it. You're choosing to be mad about it.
Right, right.
And that
Elizabeth
means you were making that conscious choice.
Elizabeth added, I had to learn to separate my little me from my grown up me. And that really goes right back into the whole way that Teri has taught a lot of us that we've worked through is learning our littles and learning who within you is responding or reacting to what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes someone will show up and it'll be a little that doesn't even have a we don't even have a conscious well, I mean, sometimes we have a memory. I have a memory when I was about 2 years old, but then again, I don't have memories after that, for huge chunks of my childhood. But we can bring our subconscious can bring up memories that have been buried for a long time, and we may have a you know just that I get the heebie-jeebies when that happens, and you don't really know why, because you don't have a life experience around it. It's because the body never forgets, and so your little always remembers it. So it'll come up in an odd way sometimes, and that can be frustrating for people trying to figure out why. But our obligation to ourselves as an adult is to be the healthiest that we can possibly be with whatever tools that we have, and to never stop learning that or how to grow.
Sandy refers to controlling the relationship now that her dad has passed, controlling the relationship with him, and looking for the good in that. And I think that's what we can choose to do that. If choosing to stay in a relationship, I mean, there are people who quote unquote divorce their parents and stay away from their parents and stuff, and sometimes that is very necessary. Sometimes, I mean, but more by and large, most people can work through a multitude of things. There's some things that on that list that you can't work through, and it's okay to, when it's those bad situations, when there's SA involved in some stuff like that, that you just go, oh my gosh, no, you don't have to work things out with a parent who's done something heinous like that. But and but I do think that when you get into those situations that are bigger than you, I think, just like when I had a situation bigger than me, I called somebody who could help. And that's why I called Teri Pugh. And that's why we started doing this podcast. And if you are hearing this or seeing this in the afterplay and you're going, I haven't ever contacted anyone, Teri's a good egg to call, because a lot of the things that I brought up, because I had tried therapy and all sorts of other things and they did not work. And you gave me the tools, Teri, to get through those things and to move through them and to come out the other side. And so I just want to encourage people, if you've got something you want to in touch with Teri, just go to teripugh.com and you can set up and get you a package of visits.
A package of visits. Well, I appreciate your sweet words, Devon. And I will say this, even if you had a parent that has abused you in the most unthinkable ways, you don't always have to work towards a forgiveness with that particular person. And I know some people will say, well, the Christian thing to do is to forgive. Okay, whatever. But you can also go on with your life, because you don't, I know. Whatever.
I tried not to laugh. I really tried to hold that in, but
well, it is what it is.
I know. You need to forgive. You need to forgive.
Right. And I say that when you have a situation like that, if you feel like you absolutely have to go through a fine-tooth comb and go there, fine, go there. But also remember this, that you don't have to work through anything with someone other than yourself and your little. That is the relationship that you have to bond, you have to forge, you have to heal. It has nothing to do with that other person. You are not ever going to change another person's belief. You can go to a parent years after the fact and explain to them, you did this, this, and this. They will look you dead in the face and say, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't remember that. So don't, and I say don't worry, and I'm not saying it to placate, but I'm saying it's not about that person. It's about that child inside you that was affected, and it's about you as an adult who are hanging on to it. Working in that relationship, that little relationship with your adult, That's what's going to heal what needs to be healed so that you can move through life making the best of it. Because I can assure you, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be close to the tombstone. So my hope is that you spend more days on this side of the sun enjoying it rather than being bitter and angry and allowing something that happened years and years or decades or 6 months ago or 5 minutes ago to continue to control the outcome of your life.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Um, Joyce joined us. Hi, Joyce. We're glad to have you today. And Elizabeth reminds us forgiveness isn't for the other person. I forgive for my own peace of mind. I won't let anyone live rent free in my head. Those are all really good. And Sandy says, just because you forgive them doesn't mean you have them in your life anymore.
Absolutely.
Forgive is for you, not them. And I know that, and there is a place of forgiveness. And,
But also the definition of forgiveness, like with that, there's different definitions, right? We've got our biblical definition, and then we have got our psychological definition of what that is, and that to forgive is to forgive someone, to forego, which means that you are no longer holding that against a person, and that the occurrence is it's washed out. It did not, it's not that it didn't happen. It's just that there's nothing to go back to. You don't discuss it. You have forgiven it. You have wiped that slate clean. We're humans. I'm here to tell you. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I've forgiven them." And then they'll be talking some smack about that person, or they'll be talking about, you haven't forgiven, you just throw it out there because that's what you think you need to do. If you forgive someone of something, you truly have foregone the connection to all of that, and you have said, there you go. And then you set a boundary. Now, if it happens again, you're out of my life, or I'm calling the police, or I'm just not going to interact with you anymore. Whatever that situation is.
Mm-hmm. I laugh. Mama Pat, I even tell her, I mean, she was a pistol. She's a pistol. Her whole life, she's a pistol in everybody's life, including mine. And she did some things that probably, that I carried around a little bit much. And she had a massive stroke. And what is left is this sweet little old lady. The stroke took the devil. It took the devil out of you.
And that's even something, Devon. I mean, I know you're laughing about it now, but that's even something that for adult children, that's hard to reconcile sometimes when you've had parents that have been a bit textured through your life, and then they have a stroke, and now they're really nice, and
they can't remember anything.
You kind of side-eyeing them like, I don't even want to be around you. And they're like, but I love you. And you're like, I just want to throat punch you. And you're like, but I love you. Because they don't remember that stuff.
No, they don't. But yeah. I got so tickled, and she looked at me, and I am laughing because that's literally where I went. And that's what forgiveness looks like for me. We were talking about it one day, and she says, well, I don't remember any of that, but I am sorry for what you think I did.
Well, that was close, Miss Pat, but that was not quite as far.
I laughed. I just laughed, and I said, God gave me laughter in a place where I used to have this, I want to fight you. And I said, isn't that kind of a sweet place to be in a life for me? I mean, I'm kind of grateful because I'm going, I couldn't find laughter about anything for a long time. And now I just laugh about a whole bunch of stuff, and that's my new line. Well, I'm sorry for what you think I did.
I'm sorry for what you think I did. Okay.
And may that put me a bow on your show, everybody.
Right. That's right.
Just remember that somebody has a problem with you. Well, I'm sorry for what you think I did.
Right. Sorry about that. What you think I did.
That's right. Well, thank you guys for being with us tonight. It's been a joy to have you guys, and so sorry that had some times that I had to miss and back on the horse, so to speak, because horses caused me to be away. So now back on the horse.
There
All
you go.
right. Turn it over to you, Terry, to close it out.
Well, as always, we appreciate your time and your energy and your thoughts and your interactions. And we really are going to work on getting Bill back on this show because I know he has popped in and visited with us and
Yeah,
in comments before, and he is such a wealth of
he
information.
really is.
So we'll have him back on the show. And
Oh, and Candy Seaton joined us too. Speaking of tapping, she does
Andy,
tapping
yep,
on her pages every Wednesday
she
night. So
does. She sure does. And so, yeah, until we see you again, we hope that you carve out some time to decide if you need to forgive, if it's too much hassle to forgive, if you just want to move on. Like, just imagine what your life would look like without some of that heaviness. And then be willing to gift yourself that on some level. Just consider starting. Pick up a book, read it. I don't know. Kiss a puppy. Whatever works for you.
yeah.
And until we see you again, increase your peace. See ya.
Bye, bye, everybody.